Welcome to Thursday, August 26, 2021. We're just kind of going through the motions, folks. This is the time of year when we actually start to see that late summer pattern evolve. The good news is you can get some really good weather at times this time of year, late August into September. But you can also kind of go through days where there's just not a lot of weather to talk about. That's kind of where we're at right now. There will be some showers and thunderstorms for some of you today, but really not much happening in the longer term. And the tropics, they're heating up, and that can get interesting on many levels, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Today's water vapor satellite photo shows better shower and thunderstorm activity and more coverage of higher humidity air getting a little bit further south now. There's a low and a trough up here that'll be swinging on through, making the atmosphere unstable. And there's also a bit more moisture now coming up out of western Colorado into the Four Corners. It's subtle, but it's going to be enough to bring a little bit of a better chance of shower and thunderstorm activity our way. And speaking of the tropics, see this area right here? This is likely what's going to become Tropical Storm Ida, then Hurricane Ida. It's likely going to shoot the gap here between the Yucatan and Cuba, and then head up towards Texas, Louisiana by later this weekend and early next week. You see this area here too? This isn't going to be making the news, but this could be a player in our weather later. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But as expected, the tropics are starting to get going, and it'll be making the news here soon, especially by the weekend. Today, we see this broad trough coming into the Pacific Northwest and the Northern Rockies, bringing in some showers and thunderstorms and some cooler temperatures as west and northwest winds are coming on into the region, dragging in some cooler air out of western Canada and the eastern Pacific. The heat is going to be bottled up a little bit more along the south. And there you can see that low forming down there. And as we go forward, we are going to see this trough as it comes through, producing some strong thunderstorms today. And this area outlined right here is where there is a risk for strong to severe thunderstorms. They're not going to be widespread. I would certainly think that from what we're seeing, this is going to be the area of biggest concern, but also up in parts of Montana as well. And along the border of Wyoming, South Dakota, far northeastern Colorado, a few of those thunderstorms may produce heavy rain, strong winds, and some hail. So that's something to keep in mind if you're watching or listening to this podcast and you're in those darker green or yellow areas. This is what the rainfall forecast through Sunday looks like. You can see that South Dakota, North Dakota, parts of eastern Dakotas and Nebraska and Montana are going to get the lion's share of the rain. In this area right here, though, there's enough instability and enough moisture that some showers and thunderstorms, mainly today, will be forming. We can't rule out a few thunderstorms Friday and over the weekend, but most of this activity is actually going to be today. And as we get beyond today, we're down to just isolated showers and thunderstorms as some drier air begins to move in from the Great Basin back into the Rockies. Now, as we go out further, this is for Saturday afternoon. A couple of things I want to show you. First of all, here's going to be Ida in the central Gulf of Mexico by Saturday afternoon. The high pressure ridge along the east coast and the clockwise circulation around it is going to help draw Ida north. Also, hurricanes and tropical storms are always attracted to the nearest area of low pressure, which will be over eastern Montana and the western Dakotas this weekend. So it's going to be getting pulled towards that low, and this high is also going to block it. So it's a foregone conclusion. It is likely going to be a hurricane, and it's going to go into that area right there. And then as it does so, will it go all the way up into here? No, because this trough will move east along the U.S.-Canadian border in the northern Great Lakes. So it'll come up and it will curve along with it going into this area here. However, for you discerning watchers of this podcast, you're probably saying, hey, wait a minute, I see something down off that southwest coast of Mexico. And indeed, the European model is predicting that there will be a tropical storm or hurricane off the southwest coast of Mexico at the same time later this weekend and early next week. This guy right here has a much better chance of maybe affecting the western weather than this one, as west coast or eastern Pacific hurricanes can sometimes, if the situation is right, and we've seen this in August and September's before, can get pulled up in the southwestern United States. All the stars have to line up for that to happen. The chances of this happening are probably about 1 in 4, but we're showing you this in case it does pan out, and we'll keep you updated. We'll do an update tomorrow on this. This is going to be, well, let me go in the wrong way here. So this is Saturday. This is Sunday. So notice this hurricane in Mexico off the west coast is moving up the Gulf of California, while we can see Louisiana and eastern Texas under the gun by Sunday into Monday. You see this area of low pressure, the next one coming down off the west coast of British Columbia? Now, I had just mentioned that hurricanes are attracted to the closest low pressure system. So there's going to be a natural attraction of this western Mexico hurricane or tropical storm to this guy, which means, well, maybe some of that moisture could get pulled in. So you can see this is by Tuesday night. We can see it's going on a northwest coast, but this trough may be able to entrain or bring in the moisture from what's left of that tropical storm or hurricane. This, again, I'm going to say it's a question mark, okay? I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is a computer model, but it could get interesting if it does, because this type of subtropical moisture by the middle of next week could be brought into the Four Corners and parts of the central and southwest Rockies. Again, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it is something that bears watching, because it's actually been quite a few years since we've seen an eastern Pacific hurricane or tropical storm, what's left of it. Not a storm or hurricane hitting, but what's left of it coming into the western states. So that's something for the middle to the end of next week that does bear watching. We do have the latest drought monitor to show you. Lots of red, lots of yellows, lots of browns. Drought conditions persist, although there have been some little chunks in these areas right here that have been taken out of the severe drought. Look at Arizona. Arizona has seen really big improvement. New Mexico as well. Yes, drought conditions continue, but we have had some improvement, especially here over the last week. This area, though, is growing. This area of western Nebraska, eastern Colorado, and western Kansas, after a very, very wet spring, has had a very, very dry summer. And we still have drought conditions in parts of the northern plains and the Corn Belt. This area right here, though, over the next 72 hours, as well as this area here, is going to fare well in terms of getting more rain. Have yourself a great Thursday. We'll update you tomorrow. Have a good day ahead.